As somebody that makes and uploads videos to this here internet tube on a regular basis, I also find myself spending a fair bit of time thinking about the purpose and value in doing so. The reason why folks are compelled to create and share things in this way, because ultimately, if we face it, it is a bit of a bizarre thing to want to do. Recently, I came across this video where a photographer was talking about how YouTube had devalued art. And I thought that was quite a bold statement and something that was probably worth exploring a wee bit more. Or at least I found myself thinking about it, and so I'm going to talk about it now. As far as I understood it, the general premise of the argument in this video was that since YouTube provides an incentive for people to create and share content regularly, that this inevitably results in the overall standard of work being reduced. The video that I saw was talking about street photography, specifically those point of view style videos where folks like myself document their days out taking pictures and then share the results at the end. But really what they were talking about could be applied to any art form like painting, making music, or I don't know, basket weaving, whatever your thing might be. Boiling the argument down, they were saying that it isn't possible to create excellent works of art within such a short time frame in order to turn around content regularly, and that because of that, much of what ends up being shared online is often mediocre and is detrimental to the art form in some way. Now, I'm not even going to engage with the bigger question of who gets to determine what mediocrity in art is, but in some ways, what they were saying does make some sense. And the more selective you are about what you share with the world, the higher quality it will be, or at least the higher quality it will come across as a collection. That isn't really all that controversial at all. In fact, it's kind of self-evident. If your primary goal is to be known only for or perceived by the standards of your best work, then you would naturally want to limit what you publish so that that's what's being reflected. Now, that approach or mentality inevitably comes into conflict with a platform which rewards or encourages the creation of content. Even if they wanted to, it isn't possible for any artist of any calibre to create masterpieces on a continual, regular basis, enough to satisfy the pace that would be required for these platforms and their algorithmical setups. This is not an issue, by the way, that is restricted to YouTube, but it does feel particularly relevant here as a result of the sheer volume of unimaginative, regurgitated material that is transparently just trying to game the system for more viewers, as opposed to having any genuine interest in what they're sharing or talking about. That is something that I feel keenly on a regular basis, and it makes me question why I'm here doing this, and if I'm falling victim to the same kind of traps where you care more about the numbers than you do about the stuff that you're making and making it for yourself. Now, despite fully understanding and appreciating any concerns or criticisms about the creation of content for content's sake, I do think that this perspective, the one that's been expressed in the video I'm talking about, really misses some quite important points. The first is that whilst there is a real problem on YouTube when it comes to the proliferation of worthless videos that are purely chasing the algorithmic dragon, that is a completely separate issue to the contention that people sharing their creative process somehow devalues their particular art form by displaying work of a lower standard than they might publish in a folio. As I've said already, the reality is that any kind of highly curated collection of work will provide at least the appearance of greater quality, and it is much harder to maintain and demonstrate quality consistently across time, especially if you aren't shown completely finished, polished results. For example, if we were to pick just 10 photographs or 10 bits of music from a person's entire life's work, the standard would be much higher as a collection than if we were to take everything they had produced all at once. In the past, this kind of approach was much more common. The idea that you should only ever share your very best work, and that if you did anything but that, then somehow the mask would slip and people would realise that you're not some kind of artistic genius. This comes from the world of traditional media, I guess, where you had to hire marketing people and you'd prepare for a release and you'd schedule all of your press around a particular thing. But the internet has kind of changed all of that. One of my favourite quotes from a book by the author Douglas Copeland is that the more truths you spill out, the more generic you become. And I think that sums up the fear that people have fairly well, at least in relation to this idea. This is a trap that I fell into myself for quite a long time, at least when it came to music. I would rarely share anything that I had ever made myself unless it seemed perfect. And so my entire focus was on putting out albums every couple of years because that seemed like the thing you had to do. But ironically, of course, looking back, the work wasn't perfect at all. And in actual fact, people barely noticed it anyway. It wasn't until I started regularly sharing authentic videos, or at least videos where I attempted to be authentic, like this one, they showed the kind of creative process that I was going through, that I began to build up some kind of regular audience with people that were genuinely interested and invested in what I was doing. I started this channel actually partly because I was so bored seeing videos of people creating things in a way where nothing ever went wrong and it always worked out brilliantly no matter what they tried, and of course worked out brilliantly first time, which was the total opposite of my experience and experience I know of lots of other people. The false image of perfection and flawless success that is so often projected in this type of video can lead to these really deep feelings of inadequacy and insecurity for creative people, as if the struggles that you are facing with your own artwork are because you aren't good enough, as opposed to those struggles being an inherent part of the process that you have to go through. As I've navigated these choppy waters over the past couple of years, my mindset has been inspired by a number of different people and ideas, but one book in particular that stood out for me on this topic was one that you might have heard of already, called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, or Klon, I don't know how you say their name. But the idea behind the book is that people are interested in your process, not just the perfect results. And sharing those in-between moments more openly helps show the reality, which is that the creation of art is hard. It doesn't always work out, and persistence is key. I've actually spoken about that a bit more in another video, which obviously you should go and watch whilst you're on my channel. Just binge them all. You may as well. It helps me. And I mean, who wouldn't want to listen to this voice? But the point is, when it comes specifically to videos like point of view street photography, the reason behind them, or the driving force, isn't to share a collection of final works by these people like you might find in a zine or photo book or folio, or at least I don't think it is anyway. Instead, it's to take folks along on the ride with you, let them see what it's like to go out on a day shooting, see the disappointing results that you get sometimes, see that it takes a lot of effort and time and energy and hard work to get to a place where you can have a folio that has individual pieces that are great. It's a collection of work, not, you know, just about that one day's end product. By putting yourself out there, you actually invite other folks to become more invested in what you're doing, rather than this notion that you're putting them off somehow through the imperfection of, you know, inferior results. That is a far more relatable interaction than being kept at arm's length, and pays dividends. Yes, if your goal is purely to create content for the sake of it, or to try and bait people into clicking through and to generate ad revenue, the limited ad revenue that you can get, then that does pollute the water, as it were. But if you're genuinely interested in and passionate about what you're doing and sharing what you're doing, then that is completely different, and that comes across. I personally really enjoy getting to see other people's creative processes. It's kind of an insight that you wouldn't be able to get years ago with the world of traditional media, and something that makes YouTube really a great place to be. Unlike other platforms that are geared towards the publication of finished works like Instagram or Spotify, YouTube is kind of the perfect platform to share your process, and that is partly why I'm still using it. If you're out there just now wondering about whether or not what you do or how you do it is get value, or with insecurity about what you have to offer in terms of creativity, I would encourage you to pick up the book I was talking about and consider sharing how you make things, not just the end product of what you make. Because unlike whatever this person in this video that sparked off this whole rant said, sharing the process doesn't devalue the art form in the slightest, and in fact, it actually adds to, embellishes and enriches it. So those are my ruminations for today. Do with them what you will, but keep making stuff. Or don't. I don't really care.